Hey everyone, welcome back into the video. Xbox, we need to talk. A real talk. Because with the recent news and all that, all the nonsense that have been going on the last couple years with you, outside of 2021, because ever since Halo Infinite released, you could argue that the brand has not been a good place. Now, it's not as bad as what Xbox One was, let's keep it real here, but it is not looking good optic-wise, and you need to do something. You need to get your shit together real fast, because, oh boy. Okay, let's actually get started. Yo, I'm sure y'all know about Redfall, right? And come on, we talked about that in a previous video, about how games are getting worse and worse each time a new game is released nowadays, seems like. At least on the AAA side anyway, but I know, like, with, like, indie games, typically they come out pretty polished and usually are pretty good, you know. Some, infamous ones are like Celeste, some examples like a Hollow Knight. I mean, those are phenomenal games, but anyway. Now, let's get to the topic at hand. So, regarding Xbox, so Phil was on an interview with Kinda Funny, which kind of sparked this whole debate and conversation over the past, few days. And it's finally getting my turn where I need to say something, because this is getting out of control with the whole bullshit Xbox has been doing. But anyway, so Phil, here's what he had to say about Redfall. When asked for the initial response to the launch of it, which dropped as an Xbox exclusive, there's nothing that's more difficult to me than disappointing the community. It just kind of watch the community lose confidence and be disappointed. Except Phil, no offense to you, dude, but you have disappointed the community more than once when it comes to games release. Hello? Halo Infinite? Hello, guys? Like, are you kidding me? You just supported the Halo community time and time again. Both you and 343 for that matter. Because the Halo franchise has not been in a good place for a long time. But anyway, continuing. I'm disappointed. I'm upset myself. I kind of revisit our process. I think back to the announcement of 60 FPS, then when we're shipping it, that was our punch in the chin, rightfully a couple weeks ago. Phil admitted that the critical response was not what we wanted. He maintained somewhat defensive attitudes for his team at Xbox Game Studios. One team I always fight is the idea of what went wrong. There's clearly quality and execution things we can do, but one thing I won't do is push against the creative aspiration of our teams. I'm here in support of Arcane. Their track record is awesome. I love a lot of the great games they built. I mean, Arcane has built some good games. Not being like Dishonored, for instance. But this is one where the team did not hit their own internal goal when it launched. I think it's maybe a little simplistic to just say, hey, if you would have delayed 3 months, the core creator of the game would have delivered on something that was different than what it was. Really, Phil? Like, did y'all even pay attention to the quality of the game before you released it? And you knew full well the fact that reviews did not go out until literally the day the game released. I know people say, oh, that's the thing with Bethesda. That's not entirely the case, because some games actually from Bethesda, reviews actually go out before the game released. So that's not entirely the case. Because Doom 2016, I believe, was like, both Doom games, I think were like a few days before before each release of those released, if I remember correctly. Especially, those Doom reboots are fucking incredible. I cannot say enough praise about those games. That's how you reboot a franchise from the dead. That's how you do it. We know that's not a remake, but like a full-on reboot, because those two games are freaking amazing. But anyway, so, again, back to the kind of thing at hand. Yeah, you gotta get the idea. So, yeah, Phil, did you even play the games before you released that piece of shit? Did you? Did you actually quality test? And apparently that they're expecting double digits for the view scores? So, like an 8 or whatever? Holy shit. You need to get new people on there to quality test, Phil, man, because holy fuck. Wow, these scores that Redfall got, man, I was blown away by how bad that was. Holy shit, it's literally the 14th spot on the worst rated games on Steam alone. That is abysmal. That is a huge failure. And for the record, I don't fully blame Xbox for this one. I mostly blame Bethesda because I am full belief is that Redfall was originally supposed to be a live service, by the way, before acquisition. And when Microsoft took over, basically, I think it was kind of evident that, you know, they removed the store, FTX store, because for a while, there was rumors about how those going to be microtransactions in the game. And for a while, it seemed like that was going to happen. But notably, microtransactions are not in the game, which it better not be, because that's $70 fucking. And the game got 60. Like, wow, you know. But anyway, kind of moving on from Redfall, let's get to the other topics of this video. Anyway, continuing on. Phil wrote this. He admitted Xbox lost the console war to Nintendo and Sony, the worst generation to lose. Microsoft Gaming CEO Phil Spencer candidly admitted in a recent podcast interview that Xbox cannot win the console war against rivals Nintendo and Sony, using conventional. He made the comments during the appearance on Kind of Funny Games. The executive said it was naive to think that Sony or Nintendo would switch allegiances to highly anticipated games. It's just not true. If we go off the build great games, all of a sudden you're going to see console share shift in such a dramatic way. We lost the worst generation to lose in Xbox One. Spencer downplayed the idea Xbox could eclipse rivals by merely creating games, saying it doesn't relate to reality of most people.
He's not alive, but he's right.
Now, I know, like, the whole thing about, like, here's the kind of thing, Phil. That's not true. You can still gain market share by making great fucking quality games, which you could argue the Xbox has not done for a long time, with some exceptions here and there. Like, for example, Halo Infinite is a good game, don't get me wrong, but you cannot argue that it was a huge failure in terms of its live service aspect for over a year, almost 2 years before the game is in a spot where it should have launched in. You cannot argue that. Nobody can tell me otherwise, okay? That's not the only thing. Bleeding Edge in 2020. Let's see. I know there was some hotspot, some highlight like Forza Horizon 5 for obvious. I mean, 2021 was a good year for Xbox from their first party standpoint, but 2022, my god, where they had nothing, literally nothing outside of Pentiment, which is not a AAA game. Hi-Fi Rush, that obviously was really well done, but that's a AA game. And Redfall was the first AAA, big budget the game they've had since Halo Infinite, and it's in the 60s on Metacritic. Ooh, my god, man, what a huge L. Yeah, it's your arcades when your first party studio is Microsoft. You should have had more fucking involvement, and I'll believe when I see it. When you say, Phil, that Xbox had more involvement with Starfield than Redfall. If that's truly the case, why didn't you do that for Redfall as well? Can you explain that to me? Because Redfall is a AAA game by one of your first-party studios. You should have more quality fucking control. And this has been an issue for a long time with Xbox. And it should have been done. Look at Sony and Nintendo. Usually, their games are critically acclaimed, usually. There's been some times, where there was a mess, like Sony with, GC7, that was still reviewed well, but the user reviews painted a totally different picture when that came out. Actually, if y'all remember. Days Gone, that was in the 70s when that first released. I've heard that game is actually pretty good. Maybe when I get a game PC, maybe I'll check that out. So, but you kind of get the whole idea, though. Nintendo, that's kind of harder to paint, because theirs is always on point, usually. I may not like every genre that Nintendo does, but you cannot deny their games typically are quality releases. Typically. But, yeah. So, Now, here's something more Phil had to say. Executive said Xbox focuses energy on Game Pass, xCloud, ensuring that game works fully across all devices. I see a lot of pundits out there that want to go back to a time where we all had cartridges and discs, and every new generation was a clean slate, and you could switch the whole console share, Spencer said.
No shit.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, there's normally a lot of console fanboys that kind of wish that everything was the same as it was. But in the past, though, there has been times like where console generations would be a complete reset. But I wouldn't say that this generation, because ever since the 8th generation, consoles have been more like PCs with the x86 architecture. So where they're just basically PCs at this point, pretty much. But yeah, so and also the Xbox One generation and PS4 generation was like where people kind of set their digital footprint with their digital purchases, and considering that generation was what 7 years, 7 8 years, kind of like how the 7th generation was. So where people no doubt spend a lot of money on digital purchases, because each and every year digital purchases continue to overtake physical sales. So at this point in time, people who have kind of invested so much money in a particular console, they're not inclined to switch brands, with the new generation. But now previously, that could be the case, because after the Wii, like mid-generation, I got rid of the Wii and got a 360, and that was kind of my first Xbox console, actually, that I've actually owned. I've had the original Xbox, but that was like through extended family, though. So that's kind of like how I started with Halo and all that. So a little backstory there. But you kind of get what I'm saying, though. So people who kind of spent so much digital purchases last generation, they weren't inclined to make a console switch like in previous generations. It's completely different. And Phil was right in saying that they lost the generation that was the worst one to lose. Because, yeah, they completely fumbled last generation out of the freaking game. With the no games, let's see, focused on TV, the whole online DRM bullshit nonsense. And Sony, rightfully, roasted the living shit out of them. And kudos to Sony, they won that generation, like, hands down. But, and Nintendo, well, they fumbled hard with the Wii U, and luckily made a comeback with the Switch. So, yeah. And so now we kind of finally have this quote, which is really kind of like is what set the whole internet on fire, literally. If you look at Twitter, that's just not the world we are in today. There is no world where Starfield is 11 out of 10 and people are selling their PlayStation 5s. That's just not going to happen.
Honey, you've got a big storm coming.
Phil, like, nobody is ever saying that. And this is the kind of the quote that kind of ticked me off the most. I'm like, nobody's saying that, Phil. Like I said before, nobody in their right mind is going to sell the PS5 and just immediately switch to Xbox just because of Starfield suddenly getting, 11 out of 10s or whatever. I mean, it could still be a masterpiece, but people are not going to sell their PlayStations just to get an Xbox. Now, they could just get an Xbox and have it as another system where they could play whatever critically acclaimed Xbox games that do come. That Starfield, Forza Motorsport, Fable, Avowed. You kind of get the whole idea. Hellblade 2. I mean, that's another one out there, but you kind of get what I'm saying, though? Like, people don't have to sell just to get the other one. They could just still save the money, get the other one, and just have it kind of as another console, pretty much. Or they could just get a gaming PC or whatever and just play it there. Or just use xCloud or whatever. Like, there's so many choices. Because there's kind of like almost no point in just being a sole console user anymore. Things are just so different now with gaming than what it was so back then, It's just so different, now. But, yeah, like Xbox, at the end of the day, Phil, y'all need to wake the fuck up and change shit, because it's getting ridiculous with so many. I mean, just the fact that you had an IP in Halo that was so cultural impact, like, that literally put Xbox on the map. And for so many years, you mismanaged it. You should have cleaned out house at 343 even before Halo Infinite even entered development. You should have done that. And the fact that you didn't, and the Halo IP has suffered as a result of it. I don't care what anybody freaking says. So at the end of the day, Xbox, you need to essentially crack that whip, Phil, Matt Booty, Pete Hines, whoever, and freaking make sure that those games are freaking top tier quality games when they come out. Because if you want to grow your Xbox user base, as you keep saying, you need to come out with quality top tier games. Period. End of discussion. Whenever you're on Xbox, PC, cloud, whatever, you need to make sure that they are quality releases. So get off your ass, clean up your act, because something is clearly fundamentally broken with the way you have been operating for years. And Phil, this isn't me just lambasting you, because I've loved the many things that you've done. You essentially revived the Xbox brand after Don Matrick, essentially after he left, because Xbox was dying until Phil Spencer essentially took over and pretty much, tried to do a complete 180. So this isn't me just, bashing Phil. It's not. This is coming from somebody who has been part of the Xbox brand for a very long time. And this is coming from someone who has been in the Xbox ecosystem since the 360 days. So all I'm going to say is, to end this video, is that you guys need to really clean you up, because more competition for Sony, the better. So, because competition makes, gaming better for everybody. So Phil, Matt, Todd, whoever else is involved, you need to clean up your act, because competition is king. So that's all I'm going to say. But I think I got everything I need to say off my chest. What do you guys think of this whole mess? Let me know down in the comment section below. If you like this video, hit the like button and consider hitting that sub button so you do not miss any more videos, and I'll see you on the next one. Until then, have a good one.